All right, I have a fun guest today, somebody you might recognize, Tyrus. He is a world-class wrestler who now gives some of the most entertaining and fun commentary on what the heck is going on in the United States. Tyrus, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Always a pleasure, man. Appreciate it.
Do you find it odd that Democrats' biggest concern right now is Joe Biden's age and not the amount of money he printed, the amount of inflation he caused, the number of COVID deaths under his watch, which was much higher than Donald Trump, the disastrous Inflation Act, Bidenomics, higher taxes, higher cost of living, illegal immigrants surging, all of those like disastrous train wrecks, and their only concern is Biden is getting older.
Because that's the only thing they can't spin. You can't
Mm.
spin. That's the only fact they can't put a bunch of feelings on. And it's not his age. Here's a perfect example at the Patriot Awards. An award was given to a man, one of the last World War II vets who was 99 years old, and he owned the place. He was hysterical, and he was quick, and he was witty, and he said what he wanted to say. So it's not necessarily an age thing. It's just how you age. And I take no pleasure in this. Biden is aging horribly. He's doesn't know where he's at a lot of the times. We've seen the wandering, the missteps. It's not a gaffe. It's just he doesn't know where. It's embarrassing at times in terms of because he is. If he was just out, if he wasn't the president of the United States, you would go or you would say it's this is what things happen, and you'd want to comfort him and make sure he's okay. But he is. World leaders are seeing this level of. I'm not a doctor, but dementia, whatever you want to call it, he is feeling the full effects of it, and we're seeing it every day, and it's getting worse, and it's only going to get worse. But I mean, the elections, we still got another year. How is he going to be then? Because we see the deterioration. So they can't hide that. They can't spin that. They can't blame it on Fox News. They can't blame it on the narrative, or made up numbers. They can't have JPK come on and say we're not going to talk about this now. Like his age is glaring, and I think the biggest concern for them is the progressives will not have their way with any other Democratic leader. They won't be able to do it because Biden was a hard moderate. He was one. The three-strike rule was his. He was really tough on crime, and now I don't think. I think he just goes whatever he's told. And so whoever is pulling those strings, and obviously we can tell by the administration that it's an extremely progressive, extreme left that is calling the shots. They don't have the numbers to win an election outright. So basically, him as their puppet is their best weapon. So the only thing they're worried about is that age number because they can't spin that.
Yeah, wow, that's a really insightful point. I had not thought about that, but you're absolutely right. They can't change his age. They can't change that his memory is slipping, and it's all public because he's the president of the United States. Like you can't just like put him in a back room, and he's never going to step down. I don't even know if they would allow that. But do you think he's going to magically morph into Gavin Newsom or Kamala Harris or Michelle
No,
Obama?
because again, Michelle Obama, Gavin Newsom, and even Kamala Harris will run their administration. They're
Mm.
not going to be able to say, "Read this, sir." No, remember we wanted to do. This is what you wanted to do, and I really feel that is the situation. I think it's the administration that's pointing Biden where to say, what teleprompter to read, and we're basically seeing that because whenever he freestyles or goes off script, it has been horrible and embarrassing at times. He's very confused, and it's sad because again, anyone who has grandparents or a parent who's aging, you would think that would be more important to his family, his dignity as he grows older, to step in and say, "Hey, it's enough's enough. He needs to step down." And then we'll find out for real. It was so important to have a woman of color as the VP. Is she a woman of color that just happens to be a woman of color who can run the country? That's the real question. And as a black man, nothing is more irritating to me for them, for Fox. If Fox News is like, listen, we need a black guy. And I don't care what his qualifications is. I don't care if he embarrasses himself every time he goes on stage. We just need to have a black guy because we have to appease what we feel is our woke agenda. And Fox hired me and put me on shows, and I was blatantly unqualified and made gaffes and embarrassing moments and had horrible speeches. I would be furious. I would be more furious with someone setting me up for failure or watching them do that to somebody of color than opposed to somebody who was like from the Klan or a white supremacist who said, I don't like black people. I have more respect for that individual than I do with these equity hires and this polite racism where they put unqualified people in positions because it does more hurt than harm to us. Because unfortunately, whether I like it or not, as a man of color, when Kamala does the things that she does, I'm judged by that. So, and that's very frustrating for me.
Yeah, yeah. No, I would not want to be hired for anything other than I was right for the job, because otherwise it sets you up to fail and embarrass yourself. Speaking of embarrassing failures, on foreign policy, Biden has a 62% disapproval rating. We've all witnessed Afghanistan, the Russia-Ukraine situation, the Israel-Hamas situation. We see these universities all over the country embracing Hamas, and not just rallying for Palestine, but actually embracing Hamas. Not all of them, but many of them. Is Biden going to be able to stay in office after these kind of disasters? Is there enough support to support him and prop him up for another 4 years, or has he just shot himself in the foot when it comes to foreign policy?
What we have learned, if you look at the lack of red wave when there should have been, when you look at the crime in cities, when you look at education, parents being called terrorists and whatnot, and yet still Democrats still end up dominating some of the elections. I think it's a foregone conclusion that they just don't care about those things. It's about being in power. And unfortunately, conservatives, we are outnumbered in this country. So the ugliness, the most embarrassing thing is not taking a stand. And what I'm saying is, if you're wrong in something, but you stood up for it, and then you can reflect and be like, you know what, our course of action needs correction. The embarrassing thing to me as an American over this situation with Israel is the trying to play both sides of the fence. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have a relationship with Israel. You don't have to be Jewish. You don't even have to necessarily be in that circle of support, but you can be a father, a brother, a son. And when people are slaughtered, whatever Hamas or Palestine's beef was, or whatever their message was of oppression or whatever it is, all that is thrown out the window when you commit an act of war like they did. And Israel has every right to defend themselves and eradicate them. And there should have been no pause. There should have been no moment where America seemed like we didn't have their back. They're our strongest ally. But besides that, there is no reason, because Israel is a microcosm for America. If Mexico decided to send 2,000 soldiers over and slaughter people in Texas, there would be no Mexico. There would be no Mexico. There would be no stopping us. And we would be right to defend our country, and not just defend our country, make sure it doesn't happen again. Because the one lesson that America has not learned, especially with this administration, is you don't leave things undone. You were wanting to get out of Afghanistan for your base, but you didn't think about the soldiers. You didn't think about the people in Afghanistan that stood by America, that helped America. You just did what was best for you, and it was a disaster. And a lot of the reason why is, again, equity hires, putting people in a position that don't have the experience, or honestly had no business even in making those decisions. And so we're seeing that in this thing where we're talking about Islamophobia to try to change the direction of the conversation. They're not marching saying that all Muslims need to go. They're not saying from the river to the sea that Gaza needs to be Israel. They're talking about they're basically making martyrs out of the men who decided to do these atrocities in the name of Hamas. But again, the only people who are differentiating between Palestinians and Hamas is the conservatives. We're the only ones that are saying Hamas has to go. We need to protect Palestinians as well as best we can. No one else is saying that. You're not seeing MSNBC or CNN or anyone coming out and saying Hamas is different. When you are opposed to that, when you ask the squad member, will you condemn Hamas? They won't do it. So then that, to me, sends the message that they're one and the same. And if they are supporting Hamas, it's one of those things where if you support Hamas, if you stand with Hamas, then you need to grab a helmet too, because Israel is going to eradicate Hamas and anyone who stands with them, and they have every right to do so. An act of war was committed on them. We should know the names of every hostage. We should be seeing their pictures up on the wall every day. We should have knowing how many days it's been that they've been in captivity. But we're not seeing any of that because there's the left, the extreme left, and the mainstream media is trying to play the middle, and it just baffles me. We didn't see this in Ukraine, And again, another thing is, when's the last time you had a report on Ukraine? How's it going over there? Are we winning? Are we not winning? Are our weapons making a difference? Is the billions and billions of taxpayer money that's going over there, is that making a difference? We're not hearing anything. So again, you just have to raise your eyebrow at the fact that this administration seems to be more interested in getting reelected than leading. And it's a very sad day in America when we hear the things that we're hearing and we're seeing the things we're seeing. If you want to stand with Hamas, fine. But there's consequences for your actions in this country. When you stand up for conservative values, there's a good chance you're not going to be able to be on a movie. There's a good chance that you're going to be canceled on social media. It's a good chance that when you speak on Facebook, it's going to be blocked out or called lies, because those are the consequences for our freedom of speech. And we take those consequences. We're not going to change or back down. But when the other side has it, when they're hit with it, they don't want the consequences. The kids don't want you. You can't put my name out there for ripping down. Yes, you can, because that's how the real world works. And it's feelings against facts. And right now we're outnumbered 3-1 feelings to facts. Because at this point, I don't even call myself a conservative. I call myself a fact person. And it's not your truth or my truth. It's the truth. And that's the part of this that really is difficult, because they are trying to bend the truth to their feelings. They feel like Hamas is freedom fighters. The facts say they are not.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw this on social media, but there was a gentleman, he was going onto these college campuses, and he was saying, hey, we're trying to get 100,000 people to sign a petition for Hamas, to support Hamas. Would you do that? And all the people were, oh, yeah, let me sign. He's like, well, let me just tell you a little bit about it. You have to be willing to kill all the Jews and the gays. You have to be willing to, take out the Christians, and, they go through all and then every one of them, you see their reaction. They're like, ooh, I didn't know that's what I was supporting. So you got all these people supporting something that they don't even understand, like Gays for Palestine. They don't realize if you were waving that flag over in the Middle East, you're being dropped off a building on your head.
You're not getting off the street.
Yeah, there's no tolerance for it.
But again, don't let, and this is the argument, you can't let their feelings mean more than facts. If you took those students and said, and again, and I've said this to Greg several times in the Gutfeld show, because for the most part, Greg, like every other person, is trying to find a reason or try to understand why they would take this course of action. And I'm saying this, it doesn't matter. They've taken it. So there's the consequences. Trying to educate them at this point is moot. You wouldn't do it for anyone else. If I chose to side with Black Lives Matter, if I chose to cheer on every time a police officer was shot in the street or whatever, I chose to do those things, I wouldn't be on TV anymore. And rightfully so. And well, Tyrus doesn't understand the history. Okay, let's let him back on TV because he didn't understand, so therefore the consequences don't apply to him. We have to stop doing that. We have to stop trying to understand why they do it and hold them accountable for doing it. And then it will come out. when they realize. Because if you stopped and asked them, like, can you tell me the story of the beef between Israel and the Palestinians? They would have absolutely no clue. And you can tell it because when you are, the first thing they do is they say they're oppressed. And because the Jews look whiter, because there's this open season on white Americans right now. And if you look at the way that white people are generally talked about now, and is acceptable to be talked about now, you can basically say anything bad about them. You can accuse them all of being generational slave owners, oppressors, you name it. You can be as racist as you want to them, and there's no consequences for it. And it's that has to stop. Where you have to take a stand. I say it all the time on my show: stop apologizing for things you didn't do, and stop allowing people to use your whiteness as a clutch for their laziness or their inability to be successful, or you blaming everything wrong in your life on a white person. Is very convenient.
Yeah.
And that's what's going on in America right now. And it's really a sad thing that we've got to the point where people preach they want equality. They get it. They didn't want equality. They want advantage.
Yeah. Wow. Let me get your take on this, Tyrus. The White House continues to boast about job growth, wage growth, a booming U.S. economy, yet 60% of our fellow brothers and sisters here in America are living paycheck to paycheck. A new article out on Yahoo Finance this morning blamed Americans for not seeing how incredible Joe Biden's policies are, and gave no consequences to the Biden administration. Are they gaslighting us, telling us that?
Yeah, they're great. They're making great jobs. The problem is the cost of living so high. You need two jobs.
Two great jobs.
Yeah, you need to, because when you go through a drive-through to get a Big Mac and it's $20 for one meal, that's out of hand. Or you go, your food shopping bill is doubled. And you want the basics, eggs, bacon, milk, orange juice, maybe a steak. Now you're having ground chuck because ground chuck is $7.99 a pound. Or if you want to go fill up your gas tank in some parts of the country, places like California, when it's almost $6 a gallon. So yeah, there's all kinds of new jobs. And then who is working these jobs? Who's qualified for these jobs? They're new jobs, which require new training. But again, when the cost of living is so high, and you need a husband and a wife, and let's say they have two kids, and they have to have 3.5 jobs to take the status quo, then the family's breaking down because no one has time. And we're seeing the results of that. So yeah, great. You're inventing new jobs. Awesome. But it's not helping anyone because you've spent so much of our money and you continue to spend. You're sending billions of tax earning dollars to Ukraine and to all these projects and plans and green climate control, all this BS stuff, and then at the same time not putting anything back into our country, not putting anything back in our infrastructures. You drive in the streets lately, you've seen the potholes everywhere. Like it's just but hey, we're making jobs. You can spin anything to look good. And this is what goes back to my first point. The only thing they can't spin is the failing leadership of our president because of the deterioration of his mind due to his age.
Yeah. You guys probably covered this over on Fox and with Gutfeld, but I read that because of the surge of illegal immigrants into the country, it's going to cost the American taxpayer about $450 billion. That's 4 Russia-Ukraine wars every single year, on top of the actual Russia-Ukraine war. So Israel's getting money, Ukraine is getting money, everybody but the American taxpayer is getting money. And yet, why does half of the country continue to put up with this? You're saying it's power?
It's not just power. They did an amazing job of convincing the country that Donald Trump was the second coming of Hitler. They've done an amazing job with that. No one likes Biden. You don't see a Biden sticker or a Biden sign in someone's yard. They vote against President Trump. The mainstream media has created the monster. And when you hear, and it's starting again, I don't participate in social media hardly at all anymore. I have 2 forms. I have Instagram and X because they're connected, and I'm really leaning toward getting ready to delete Instagram. I'm just tired of being shadow banned. And I am not a controversial person. I'm not a conspiracy person. I literally put up pictures of events I'm working, some weightlifting stuff, my family occasionally, but yet still deal with the shadow banning and whatever because of the fact that I choose to vote conservative and I like small government. So you're just continuing to see those changes. They don't care about those things because they're just running against President Trump. And they're going to continue to do that. And unfortunately, it's been effective, even though I think it's starting to wear a little thin because when you can't go into the city, if you wanted to go to a movie in the city, you got to worry about getting carjacked, robbed. And then the worst part is the individual who robs you, if he is arrested, will be out in the street 2 days later looking for you to get payback because you had him arrested in the first place. So it's just how much is enough. But again, the new religion is your political party. So you vote Democrat no matter what, because that's your religion and literally will determine whether your friendships stay maintained, family circles intact. That's what they've created. And you have to, unfortunately, tip your hat to them because they've been very effective with it. President Trump's deeds go unnoticed, even though they feel the hurt themselves. They're convinced, oh, he tried to destroy democracy, and that's what they're running on. This you don't hear Biden talking about he's going to do this and this and reduce this and fix that. We have to stop Trump. He'll take away your democracy. And they're unfortunately blindly following this. And it doesn't matter. They're starving. They're living paycheck to paycheck. But at least, because if Trump was in, would be the new North Korea. Even though during his entire presidency, when he could have called martial law, when he could have done all these things, and we're only waiting for a matter of time before he wears a military uniform like they did, his entire presidency was one giant coup. And if you bring it up, if you say it, you will be taken off the air. They've done an effective job, and I don't know necessarily how you overcome that because they basically vote to stop President Trump. So, and they've done a very good job at convincing a lot of Americans that kind of fear, and it's very disheartening.
Yeah. All right. So you kind of rose to fame as this incredible wrestler. Then you start working with Gutfeld on Fox. Then you're getting into comedy. You've authored multiple books. You've got a new book out, Nuff Said. Tell me a little bit about Nuff Said. What can I anticipate in that book?
Okay, so my first book, Just Tyrus, was an introduction to me and how I think, and a little bit of my background too, because a lot of people want to know where my ideas come from, and it just comes from living life and traveling a lot, and lots of failures, lots of firings, lots of heartache, but learning how to take accountability for those shortcomings and turn them into success. Because you can't fix other people, but you can fix yourself. You can always fix the guy in the mirror. Someone doesn't like you for whatever reason, you can't change that. But you can look at yourself and put yourself in situations. Even if a door is slammed in your face, you just find another door. That's the beautiful thing about this country. There's no one lane. You're not born destined to be, and if you're born on a farm, that doesn't mean you're stuck on the farm. In most countries, it would be. Not in America. And I have started and failed so many different, like I'm like I guess you'd call me an urban Forrest Gump in certain aspects of my life in terms of a lot of different opportunities and met a lot of great people along the road. Enough Said is taking those teachings and mindsets and attacking some of the big issues we had in 2022 and 2023. And very unabashed and straightforward, talking about a lot of situations, everything from abortion to picking how you choose how to vote for someone, because I think we've lost what's important. And abortion has been a hot button issue, and it's a very difficult issue for men to take a stance on, because you're like walking on landmines and stuff. I'm a firm believer. I don't believe any man should tell a woman what to do with her body, but I do think we can have the conversation about a man's role in those things. And I talk about the fact that if you look through a men's perspective from abortion, because I can't talk about a woman's perspective and I wouldn't want to, but we don't have that luxury in terms of saying my right, my body, my life, my body. When a man makes a mistake, if a man gets a woman pregnant, unplanned, he can't say, well, I don't want that responsibility, my body, my life. I want to move on, because our society won't allow that. He's a deadbeat dad. They will tell you, you had the fun. Now you need to step up for that. And there are even courts in place to make sure that you take care of your responsibility as a father. Even if you're married and you have a family and you went on a weekend and made a mistake and had an affair, a one night stand with a woman, and she's pregnant, that's your responsibility. There's no way out of it for you. And there's no way leaving it. We're just not allowed. A man is not allowed to do that in this country. And so when you look at that you can never say to a woman, well, and I'm not talking about rape, I'm not talking about incest or anything like that, or medical danger to her life, but in general, if a woman went out on a weekend and had a one night stand and they weren't careful, and she got pregnant and she's like, I don't know what to do, and I would just say to her, well, you did the time. You need to be a woman up. You need to man up. You need to woman up and take care of your responsibility, because that's the right thing to do. I would be a misogynistic pig. So there's a double standard there. But again, and we all need to come together, whether you're pro-life or not. We need to stop attacking each other over this thing. It is not, if a woman makes a decision to go forward with an abortion, it is not a good thing. It is not a happy time. It's a tough decision that has life-changing repercussions long after the procedure is done. Just going through that decision-making process, it doesn't help screaming at them and calling them killers. Like, we need to remember that it is a horrible decision on both sides, and it's better off to be counseling or be a place to, like, hey, let's have the conversation. We're here to help, not attack. We need to remember, and this idea that somehow it's a badge of honor to have 10 abortions, and because the extreme left will do that, say those type of things, and that's just as bad as going after the women. And like I said, and I talk about a personal experience where I went through as a man in that situation in college. I had my feelings about it, but my feelings weren't I don't even, the word necessary is just, they had no weight in the decision. I couldn't do anything, and I had to say things to be able to still be close to the situation. Men have to say, well, whatever you want to do, I'll respect it. Whatever you want to do, I'll help you, and you have to pay for it, or whatever those. And even though everything about you says, I don't agree with this, it's her body. But we need to remember, or at least think about, that it is a horrible decision, a tough decision. No one's in an abortion room smiling. No one's laughing it up, waiting for their number to be called. Everyone in that room is thinking about their life and their life choices. It's quiet, it's sad, and we need to get back to that. We need to stop fighting over it. And one, it is a fight that the Conservative Party has had devastating election results from our stance, because when you come off judgmental and you come off telling people, or coming off from that it looks like we're pointing down, the voters react to that, especially women voters. And we've seen that, and we've seen it. What should have been a red wave, that Supreme Court situation with Roe v. Wade, changed the entire election process. And what should have been a great day for Republicans, and get people back to supporting police, back to education and the families, school choice, getting our fiscal spending down, stop sending billions and trillions of dollars to other countries, and all that was thrown out the window because we got caught up in feelings and attacking. And we just have to look at the way we do things, because this is not working. We're not seeing people changing their minds, which is the biggest thing. And now we're being created as monsters, which I don't think anyone who's pro-life wants to be a monster. They want to help. And I think we just need to find a way to fix that division, because I think if we can fix that, if we can come together a little bit on that, I think that will change how people look at voting. I think that will take a lot of the personal things out of it. And again, it's not a fun conversation. And as a man, a lot of men don't even want to discuss it, because we have absolutely no say in the process. We can't say, well, it's half me, you got to keep it. Can't do that. And if she does decide to keep it, we can't say, well, I don't want nothing to do with it. Yeah. I want to live my life. So but we never have the conversation, other than we get caught up in the argument of telling them what to do. And whenever that happens, we lose every time.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, the book comes out on the 21st.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'm going to put a link down below. Is it okay if they go to Amazon to
Yep,
get that?
phenomenal. I
Okay.
appreciate it.
And then if people want to continue to follow you outside of the Gutfeld show, what's the best way to do that?
Or just about every other show on Fox. I'm not waking up with you every Friday on Fox and Friends.
Okay.
I rotate on the 5. You can always catch me on America's Newsroom, Falker Focus, Kill Me's One Nation, Kill Me's radio show. I mean, it's just nonstop. Plus, I got a podcast called The Wise Men. So, and of course, you can find me on X, Planet Tyrus, and Instagram, Tyrus Smash. And
Okay.
those verified. Those are the only 2 forms of social media I have. If you find anything else, TikTok or whatever, that's not me. I do know that I do have some fan pages that are run by the Tyrus Stand Up Show, but they clearly say Tyrus Stand Up Show. But other than that, that's it. And those are run by my wife. So that's it. But if you best way is X is probably the best way, Planet Tyrus.
Okay. We'll put a direct link that way. They're not Googling you and finding out, oh, look, this guy's giving away a truck. And then it ends up being a total scam. That's what I'm dealing
Yeah.
with right now is
Oh,
somebody.
I've had many sad DMs. My wife has informed me. Unfortunately, there is a fake Tyrus on TikTok who is attempting to romance women to help him fund his divorce because she took all my money. There's a lot of listen, the last place I would go for help in my marriage would be TikTok or Snapchat or anything like that. Those of you who see me on Gutfeld, I'm just fine in my captivity.
Yeah. Yeah, I had one just the other day. I'm trapped in Alaska and my wife's taken all my money and they unfortunately gave money. It's sad. It's
That's
very
where we need to, and that's why I know we got to go. But that's where I think you got to have an ID to buy a beer. You got to have an ID to have a social media account. I'm sorry. That would eliminate the sex trafficking. That would eliminate the pedophiles going after children, and that damn sure stop you and me being stranded in Alaska needing money because our wives ran off to Vegas.
Yeah. And maybe an ID to vote. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
that's too controversial though. Hey,
No, it
Tyrus.
makes sense. No one, we don't like making sense, and that's basically what it is to be a conservative. We try to make sense out of things. Keep it small and simple. We don't have no problem putting money for what's important. Keep the spending so it goes back in your pocket, and go out there and chase the American dream. And may the best man win. And I'm perfectly fine with that because that is fair.
Yeah. Hey, thank you so much for coming on. I'll put those links down below. Congratulations on your great tour and all your success. And I'll have you back on another time. But thank you again for coming on.
Oh, thank you. Have a great day.